Catholic College of Arts and Science, Kaliyakkavilai. The galaxy of intellectuals, honorable guests, benevolent teachers, and beloved students. We are very much delighted to welcome you all in this gracious occasion. And I invite Mrs. M.S. Subi, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Nanjil Catholic College of Arts and Science, Kaliyakkavilai, to welcome the gathering in this online platform.
A morning is a wonderful blessing, either cloudy or sunny. It stands for hope, thoughts, and giving us another start. A very good morning to honorable authorities, faculty members, research scholars, and my dear students. It gives me immense pleasure to extend warm greetings to you all on behalf of the Department of English, Nanjil Catholic College of Arts and Science. First of all, I invoke the presence of Lord Almighty to shower His blessings throughout the program. I am pleased to extend a warm welcome to our dignified Secretary, Reverend Father M. Eckermans Michael, who is a towering personality, a navigator of this flagship of knowledge, and possesses exceptional leadership qualities. With immense pleasure, I welcome you, Father. It's my pleasure to welcome our principal, Dr. A. Meenakshi Sundararajan, who is a man of distinct vision and a fountainhead of illuminating ideas, an idol of knowledge, and an inspiration to all of us. I consider it a great honor to welcome you, sir. We all have dreams, but in order to make dreams come into reality, we need a lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. Our chief guest is a person having all these qualities. He looks like a simple person, but a literary genius and a reputed man of letters. He is a devoted teacher who has mesmerized scholars and people of varying caliber with his intellect and charm all of the globe. He is a strong critic with pleasant wit. He is not only an author but also an editor. I wish to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Priya Elmo Raj, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Pachaiyappa College, Chennai. I, on behalf of the administration, faculty, and students, wholeheartedly welcome you, sir. To be inspired is great, but to be an inspiration is an honor. With this note, I would like to welcome Dr. S. Sushma Jennifer, Head of the Department of English, Nanjil Catholic College of Arts and Science. She is an excellent teacher and motivator who extends her support, suggestions, and guidance to us as and when we require it. I'm very glad to welcome you, ma'am. Next, I would like to welcome all my fellow colleagues for taking a keen part in this webinar. I welcome you all. I feel honored to welcome all the participants from various parts of our country. I'm sure that you will feel enriched with knowledge after completion of this webinar. I welcome you all once again to the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words of welcome. A person of hardness, a great motivation to all of us, but a visionary and the person who is the backbone and the strength of this age. She is none other than our HOD ma'am, Dr. S.
A very good morning to you all. It's really my pleasure to meet Dr. Prayer Elmo Raj and my dear friends, faculty members, and also dear children. It is really a wonderful day, and I'm really happy to meet you all. And green literature is a variety of literature that promotes and protects nature. Today, nature has proved that it is above all human powers and has locked human beings inside four walls. We really understand the power of nature and we do respect it. And literary environmentalism arises out of a desire towards the understanding of the earth and literature. Understanding about the earth is more important to understand literature, not only about literature, to understand human beings. When you talk about literary criticism, we could understand that it is a potential tool for environmental change, and it also paves way for a healthy environment or a change in environment. We, the people of literature, must understand the importance of literature and understand the importance of nature and the uses of literature and nature. The green screen literally means the green screen. It's a technical term if you see with the industry of film. And when you talk about film industry, or when you talk about films or cinemas, it is one of a powerful communicating medium that can communicate to any number of people or any type of people. Language is not important for films because film itself, it's a language. So we are really fortunate to have such a kind of a different topic, including literature, including film industry in literature, and bringing out or talking about environmentalism. So we are not just talking about one literary genre, but rather we are talking about so many literary fields which can create an impact in today's society. I would really appreciate Professor Anupama Jo's efforts to bring such an efficient personality among us and to create an awareness about environment and the environment in nature. I should thank her effort, and I should also thank the department members for supporting and bringing out such important and efficient webinars to our department. It is really an honor to be a part of this webinar, and I really pray that God may grant this as a wonderful and an enlightening knowledge for the children. Have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words, loving words. Now, the fragrance of flowers spread only in the direction of the wind, but the goodness of a person spreads in all directions. Dear students, we are delighted to have Mrs. Almara Jose, Assistant Professor of English, to introduce the Honorable Chief Guest to all of us.
A very good morning to all. I am profoundly overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce the resource person of the day. He is none other than Dr. Elmo Raj, who is an inspiration to a lot of literature students, including me. He is profoundly loved and respected by his students only because he is a man of simplicity and he is a man of in-depth knowledge in his area. I know many had joined this webinar only because the resource person is Dr. Prayasa. I know him from 2010 onwards, though his profile will grow like anything as an author and editor. There is no change in him as a human who helped and inspired his students always. Let's see his profile. Dr. Elmo Raj is presently working as Assistant Professor in PG and Research Department of English in Pachaiyappa's College, Chennai. His area of interest in research are literary or critical theory and alternative epistemologies. He has authored and edited 13 books. His recent books are Animal Discourse and Environmentalism in Literature and Cinema in 2021 and Locating Transnational Spaces, Culture, Theatre and Cinema in 2020. He had written 73 articles and essays in national and international journals, and he had presented 21 papers in national and international conferences and seminars. Presently, he is acting as a member in 3 editorial boards, and I am damn sure that his students still carry his lecture notes and still they remember the classes as how I remember Dr. Foster's, which was taught by him. I'm sure that this session is also going to remain long lasting in the minds of those who ever attend this session. Let us lend our ears to the words of my beloved sir, Dr. Prayer Elmo Raj.
Thank you, ma'am, for your influential message about our chief guest. We are charmed by your words. Nothing great will be achieved without a great man. And we are blessed to have Dr. P. Prayer Elmo Raj, a man of simplicity and knowledge. May I request our chief guest to deliver his address.
Thank you. Am I audible to you? Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to share my screen. Please wait. Is the screen visible? Can you all see the screen? Okay. Let me first of all thank the management and the principal for having me in this national webinar. And also a word of thanks to Dr. Shushma, Head Department of English, the staff and the students of the department, and especially my student and organizer of this webinar, Mrs. Anupama. Thank you all for those loving words. This is almost a virtual homecoming, though I was not able to come home for a long time. This is a sort of a virtual homecoming for me. Thank you. The topic for today is green screen, representations of ecologies in film. The very word green screen is captivating. The purpose of this presentation today is to explore the interaction between ecologies and cinema or film. When we talk about ecology, eco-criticism, environmental studies, environmentalism on the one hand, and film studies and film criticism on the other, we are actually talking about two major, very relevant and very significant areas of studies in humanities. Of course, ecology also is represented by the sciences. So we are talking about two heavily loaded, heavily researched, ever advancing fields of studies in humanities: ecology, eco-criticism, environmentalism, and film studies and film criticism, on the other hand. At the outset, I want to point out two things. One, we are all part of this topic. In other words, we are part of this ecology, we are part of environment, we are part of this planet Earth. We are subject ourselves, and we are also object of this planet. We know what is happening around us. We know how this environment is transformed, the catastrophes that are happening, the impending dangers that we are facing. All these are very close to us, and we are all part of this process, or we are part of this ecology, the planet Earth. On the other hand, film, cinema is very close to us. So we watch cinemas, we listen to songs, we listen to various clippings that we see in televisions, various clippings of maybe a comedy clipping or a song clipping from the movies or cinemas in the TV. We associate ourselves with it. We respond to what we see, what we listen to, and we are almost all of us are a sort of a film critic by ourselves, because we all have certain responses to it, and films, knowingly or unknowingly, affect our perspectives, our understanding of life, and how we live in society. So here we are talking about two major disciplines. They are not only areas of studies, but they are very close to us. Secondly, both ecology, environmentalism, eco-criticism, and film studies is an expansive field of study which is ever advancing. The changes that happens in ecology is immediately reflected in letters. Lately, we talk about, in the past decade or so, we talk about Anthropocene. We talk about very vehemently about climate change and the implications of climate change. We talk about non-human theories. We talk about animal discourse. We talk about transnational spaces. We talk about post-humanism and impact of post-humanism in the environment and to every one of us. On the other hand, every day you wake up, you could read, you could find something new about film studies and film criticism. It is an ever advancing, very innovative field. So we have two very loaded two disciplines. Let's start with few questions. What is film? Now, don't look for any bookish answers for it. According to so and so, according to Einstein, according to Heidegger, you don't look for anything. Just at the back of your mind, think subjectively, think personally, what is cinema to you? You might be a very pious self who would never watch film, or who must have vowed yourself telling that I would never watch a film in my life. It is a sin. It by itself is an effect on you. On the other hand, think also about your relationship with it. We all have a love or hate relationship with cinema and film. Two, how both these relationships, how both film and yourself are a mutually constitutive dynamic. Knowingly or unknowingly, fortunately or unfortunately, a mutual process or a mutual constitutive dynamic goes between you and film, your relationship with film. Three, how reality is presented, or how ecology is presented, how environment is presented, how nature is presented, how the world is presented, represented, transformed, or imagined in a moving image. Now, this is what we are concerned about. Now, the very word green screen gives us a thought of the green ecology that we have in mind. We should also think about, if green screen is only about green, if green screen is all about environmentalism, Is it only about plants and greens that is around us? It is only about the green planet, or it is more than that? So there are a lot of words that goes with film criticism with regard to the interaction between ecologies and film. They talk about environmental ethics and film. They talk about a genre of film called eco-film. I don't know how many of you know that we have a national award category for eco-sensitive films or eco-conscious films. So we have many names. We have eco-film, we have green screen, we have another word, green media, we have green screen. There are a lot of words, there are a lot of concepts that reflects, that presents, that explores the relationship between, the interaction between ecologies and films. So this question, how a world, how planet, how landscapes, how naturescapes, how different objects, how our imagination of a world is presented, represented, transformed, and imagined in a film or a moving image. Now, let me introduce to you the term ecology. I'm tending to fix my lecture to an introductory note, because initially the conversation that I had with Anupama said that this is mainly for undergraduate students. So those colleagues of mine that I see and those advanced students, scholars, please bear with me that I will say or I'll repeat certain things that are basic. What is ecology? Ecology, let's not get into the details of the definition. Ecology at its crux is the relationships between three stages or three strands. One, we have living organisms, then we have humans, and then you have physical environment. It could be non-human, it could be non-living, anything that we see in a physical environment. So this is what ecology tends to study. So this relationship, these interactions between these three, this is a triadic relationship. This relationship is studied in literature, it is studied in anthropology, it is studied in psychoanalysis, it is studied in Marxism, it is also studied in sciences. You have botany, zoology, they also are concerned about these relationships. So the study of ecology or ecology is open to all, and we ourselves are subject and object of these relationships. We have relationship with living organisms, we have relationships with relationships and interactions with other humans, fellow humans. We have a family, we have a social life. We also have relationship with our physical environment. We grow trees, we have gardening, we have different, we collect shells, we collect pebbles, marbles. These are all our relationship with physical environment. On the other hand, we are talking about something that is very animating. On the one hand, we talk about something organic, that is ecology, and the other hand, we talk about film or cinema as moving image. Cinema or film is a product of digital technologies. Here I'm talking about the very making of a film or a cinema. The making of a cinema involves a science. There is a science behind the making of a film. It is not a start-stop process. It is not an instant process. It is not just a frame. It involves a continuous process. It could be 30 minutes or 40 minutes, or it could be 45 minutes. It could be 1 hour. It could be 3 hours. Or more. It could be serial. So now, understanding film as a product of digital technology, or understanding film or the science that goes behind the making of the film is very important, because it is a product of digital technologies. Remember that digital technologies advances every day. My friend says once in every fortnight, we have something new in digital world, especially related to film. So everything that is new has to be adopted within this making of films. Two, so we have a science in in the making of the movie, from the film criticism point of view, we can also look at philosophically film as an event. Those who are familiar with post-structuralist thought would know that the word event, the concept event, is very important to the thinking of a concept or a thinking of a situation. Philosophically, an event deals with objects, situations, their relationships, and how meanings are made. I repeat, philosophically, event is a relationship between object, situation, and how meanings are made in this relationship. Sometimes the object could be inanimate, the object could be organic, the object also could be a thinking object. Here in film, it could be a moving image. So philosophically, you tend to understand, even from the film criticism point of view, you tend to understand event as a relationship between object, then you have situations, and how meanings are made. The very famous post-structuralist philosopher Bourdieu's masterpiece, Being an Event, tends to see multiplicity of senses that are drawn out of these relationships. We have plurality of meanings or plurality of space of significations. We have many different lenses with which we can understand, experience an event. Also, the famous Deleuze, who himself have 2 volumes on cinema, understands, reflects this event as revolutionary. Why is it revolutionary? Because the way science, symbols, objects, structures are put together to make a moving image is by itself revolutionary, so that when we come into contact, when we get into the experience of the cinema, revolutionarily derive meaning out of it, derive experience out of it. So we have seen both the science side of it, science side of cinema, and also I have talked to few from the philosophical film criticism point of view. Now coming to the topic today, there are many ways of looking at the relationship between film and ecology. There are many frameworks with which you can understand the interaction between film and ecologies. Today, I have picked up only one perspective, that is process relational ontology. I'll explain to you as in simple terms. Process philosophy understands this world as a process. It almost understands everything in this world as a process. Human being is a process. Movie is a process. Our life is a process. Time is a process. And how we are shaping up as human being is a process. I'm breaking down into very simpler terms. Philosophers like not Whitehead and others are talking about very advanced understanding of process philosophy. On the other hand, we have relational understanding of ontology. What is ontology? Ontology is one of the 6 branches of philosophy that talks about existence or a being, who you are in your existence, the existence of an object, the existence of movie, the existence of a subject, the existence of a stone, the existence of a study, the being in it. There is something that goes deeper within all these objects, so that exist. So here we have a process relational ontology. What is this process relational ontology? We have 2 aspects to the existence. One, existence is a process, and at once there is some kind of a relationship that goes within the existence. So if a rock has to exist, it has to exist relationally. If a man has to exist, if a human being has to exist, if a woman has to exist, he or she should exist relationally. You cannot tell me that I will live by myself. I will not eat. I will not breathe. The moment you breathe, you are a relational human being because you have an ecological relationship. The moment you eat, you are eating something that is coming out of ecology, and you establish a relational relationship. So your existence by itself is a relational process. Now, on the other hand, you yourself is a process. So these two together have contributed immense studies in film criticism. So this will be the framework on which I'll be talking about the interaction between ecology and films. Now, this relational ontology is much talked by Felix Guattari. If you know him, those colleagues of mine would know. He's a partner philosopher of Deleuze. His major work, Three Ecologies, talked immensely on relational ontology, which also is the foundation for the framework that I'm going to talk about. Now, how do we relate this to film, cinema? We have a world in cinema. Film brings us a world of subjects. It also talks about objects and also talks about situation. Remember, film as event where I talked about situations. So film in front of us discloses a world of subjects, objects, and situations. You see a process that is underneath, that is explicit. This process is also relational, and on the other hand, it is relational by itself. How we relate to this a particular movie, how it establishes certain relationships between the objects and subjects and the situations or the circumstances in which the narrative idea is presented in the movie. This framework that I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes is put forward by Adrian Ivakhiv, who himself is an environmental critique and a cultural critique. I have taken this framework and I have tweaked a little bit for our understanding, for much larger understanding and much simpler understanding. You can find this understanding of process relational ontology or process relational ecology of understanding movies in his famous book, Ecologies of the Moving Image. Where do we start this framework? I talked about, just now I talked about film world. Let's first talk about world. Now, when we talk about ecology, we talk about world, we talk about planet Earth. And needless to say, what are the objects, what are the subjects that you have in the world? We all know that. We all know what is world comprised of. What are some of the things that exist and how it is related to each other. Now, the word worlding or world by itself is a philosophical concept. If you have heard of the philosopher Heidegger talks about world making in his concept poiesis. I'm just giving a few lines of introduction from where it actually come from. He had two understandings of worlding. He understands human being as a world bearing being. We ourselves has a world within us. For some of us, it is the WhatsApp that is the world, or the Facebook that is the world. For some of us academics is the world. Some of us family is the world. Some of us social life is the world. We all have. I'm getting into similar terms. I'm giving you similar examples so that you understand the crux of what he actually meant. We all have, at the philosophical level, we all bear a world within us. We all carry a world within us. We are a bundle that have we involved in the process of worlding. On the other hand, we are an organic being and we have a world within us. We are world-bearing beings. On the other hand, he also talk about art. He talks about painting. He talks about literature. Art, philosophy, literature. Let's also include movie or film, cinema, have a self-subsistent world, a self-existent that could exist by itself, a world that could exist by itself in cinema. So when you take a film, you have a world in cinema. So when you watch a film, when you watch a cinema, you are coming a world by yourself is coming into terms or experiencing another world. That is what I have put in the second point, that the world outside, the world that which belongs to me, and the world that belongs to film comes into an interaction. So these two worlds interact. So we need to understand how these worlds are connected. Now, remember that the world that you see in the film, the world that you see in cinema, could be imaginary, could be transformed, or could be actual. Things that I am going to talk in the next slide. This could be various aspects of imagination or world, but then remember the cue for the world, the cue for the film world that you see, that you experience, comes from the outer world. So there is a relationship or the cue between the film world and the external world. Therefore, whatever a director or a creator takes from the outer world is refracted or diffracted to make meanings. You know, these two are scientific terms. Refract is to bend. So you take something out of the organic world and you bend it through your imagination, to your fantasy, your creativity, and then you make meaning. Or diffraction is a process where a light is passed through an object, and after passing through an object, the light spreads. So you take something from the outer world and then proliferate it. You creatively build something. So either you bend something or you creatively create something out of the other world. Also, you either infuse meaning or diffuse meaning on people, objects, and places and environment in the film world. Now, keeping in this in mind, Geomorphic have brought to us three types of ecologies in films. So we'll be talking about this as the framework: material ecologies, social ecologies, and perceptual ecologies. I will explain to you in the next few minutes how it works. Material ecologies basically talks about the production cycle, how a movie is produced, or maybe the raw material with which it is produced. You have ecosystems in it, you have locations in it, you have sets in it, you have narrative ideas in it, stories in it. This forms the basis of the production of a film. So in order for the movie to be produced, or the film to be produced, cinema to be produced, you need material ecologies. It could be locations, it could be narrative ideas, it could be ecosystems, naturescapes, objectscapes, whatever it is. And secondly, the second ecologies that we find, the ecology that we find in film world is social ecologies. Every film talks about social relationships. In every film, you'd be able to make meaning out of social relationships. We have different ways of representations of social life, be it a movie like Star Wars, or a movie like Anaconda, or be it a movie like Yendran, or be it a movie like Teddy Bear. Whatever the movie could be, these movies are not actually talking about inanimate objects or the objects that that is created beyond our imagination. But somewhere or the other, we are talking about the social relations that these objects or these characters have with us, with organic world. 3, the perceptual ecologies that we see. Now, we are humans are creative beings. Film is a creative product, and the perception, the understanding of humans, the innovatively is introduced in films. Humans are embodied agents. They are interpreters of the world. And one method of interpreting the world is that we see in the films. So what we see in film is our perceptual understanding, or our perceptions about the world, our interpretation of the world, a creator's interpretation of the world. Something like what Wordsworth said, maybe the willing suspension of disbelief. That is his perception of the world. When he creates a poem, in that process, or maybe the Coleridge's willing suspension of disbelief, or Wordsworth's moments recollected in tranquility. These are creative processes where they bring their perceptions of the world. So perceptual ecologies are a creator's perception of a human perception of what we see in the world. Now, to substantiate this, he again gets into three different ecology. Now, this is what I call the framework for the study of any movie. I'll also in the end talk a little bit, if time permits, on how we could use this framework and study or understand a movie in a very similar terms. The first ecology, that is, this is associated with the material world, or this is associated with material ecology. The first thing that we will talk about is, we'll see about is geomorphic ecology. What is geomorphic ecology? Geomorphic, it means the forms of landscape or other natural features of the Earth's surface that you see in films or represented in films. There are different landscapes that you see. In recent terms, we talk about space. The space theory that is a flourishing area of study in the West. We have different spaces, which I will talk to you in a minute or so. How we look at the forms of landscape, how we look at the natural features of Earth's surface. Now, this is where ecofilm can be located. Ecofilm is a genre which talks about nature, which talks about the eco-sensibilities of that we ought to be aware of about ecology, the issues related to nature. All these can be brought into the geomorphic ecology. The green screen, the representation of nature, the various representation of animals, the plants, all these would come in the geomorphic ecology. Now, representation of geomorphic ecology happens at three levels. It could be an actual representation. For example, you see a desert, you don't do any graphics, you don't add into any imaginary things, you don't transform it, it just actually present what happens with desert. Two, geomorphic ecology or landscapes or naturescapes can also be transformed into another representation. And then you also have fantasy representation. I'll show you a couple of examples. Here is one. Now, I took this movie because this also made a name for itself. This is a scene from Pariyerum Perumal. Most of you would have watched this movie. Now, here is a clipping. This is an example for actual representation. Let's talk a little bit more beyond geomorphic representation or geomorphic ecology. What is geomorphic ecology is the landscape there, the naturescape there. You see almost a barren land. It is a very creative way of presenting the relationship between the emotions of the hero or the protagonist or the person there, the emotion of the animal there. You watch closely the dog there, and if you watch closely the dog there, you would see how the dog is also emoting to the entire geomorphic ecology. You also see some landscape, some trees so far behind, you see people running around. This is an actual representation of ecology. This is an actual representation of a landscape. This is an actual representation of a naturescape. The director have fixed an emotion there. This frame has very vehement understanding of how emotion is closely associated with geomorphic ecology. Two, I talked about transformed ecology. This is from an Apocalypse movie. You all know the Statue of Liberty is there, and the New York is there, and New York is flooded. Now the landscape of the naturescape of New York is there, and the creator, the director, has transformed the landscape to let you know thought there. This is an apocalyptic movie. We are talking about end of the world, the destruction. So what he has done is taken an actual location and he has transformed the geomorphic ecology. Three, here is another movie which most of you would have scene. This is a still from Avatar. Now this is a fantasy location. Now we'll talk about Avatar in detail at the end of the end of this presentation. Avatar, this is a fantasy location, something which is only an imagination of James Cameron and his team. Look at it. We don't find such locations anywhere. There is no physical. We will not be able to witness such a landscape around us. But he has created something very similar. But he has this has happened in his fantasy. This has happened in imagination. These are three ways of representation of geomorphic ecology. Now, what do we do this? How do we understand this geomorphic ecology and representation in film? Now, when we take a landscape or a naturescape and put it in a movie, it is not just for us to just see and say, "Wow, what a beautiful scenery." It is not just for us to make an exclamatory statement. It is beyond that. We all go into movie theater to understand certain things. We go either it is for entertainment or it is for a didactic purpose. The objective of the director is to present meanings. So geomorphic ecology, when it is represented, when it is actually represented, or I show how a geomorphic ecological image can bring you emotion at the foreground or at the background. Then you have space, naturescapes, objectscapes. All these are fixed in a geomorphic ecology to give us an action. So when you look at a movie, when you go for a cinema, you look at a landscape at the background, you draw meanings, you draw emotions, you also draw action out of it. So meanings can be of many types in film criticism. In film criticism, when we relate nature, when you relate ecomorphic geology with meaning, it could be actual meaning, just for the sake of how you represent or how a particular issue in the nature or environment. It could be conceptual, it could be affective, or it could create some emotion. It could be metaphorical, imaginary, or it could be cultural, connotative, or it could be qualitative, where you see a similar, a parallel understanding of meanings at the background of ecomorphic ecology. Now, geomorphic ecology also produces a set of geographic and territorial relationships. This is quite important, because this is something that is researched in the West now, at least. The theories of space, the theories of place, the theories of geography, cartography, or the theories of territories and their relationship to human beings and to different disciplines, especially film and other and literature, is very interesting and very important for us to learn. Now, this geomorphic ecology produces a set of relationship between space and place, our imaginary understanding of space and our physical understanding of a particular place. Every place might have an abstract understanding of place, and you would see that in a geomorphic ecological framework. And we also understand how home, a place where we belong, the understanding of belonging that we see in a frame, and then we also understand the foreignness, the here and there-ness of the geomorphic ecology. We also talked about urban and rural, the two examples. The first clipping comes from a rural background, the second clipping comes from an urban background. These have different set of meanings to be conveyed. These have different set of complexities involved in its presentation. Also, we talk about different kinds of the public and the private spaces. The public geomorphic ecology and the private geomorphic ecology, space, that the public space and the private space, which interacts heavily in any film that you see. Right. The next one. The next ecology that he talks about is biomorphic ecology, is animomorphic ecology. First, what is biomorphic ecology? Biomorphic means abstract forms or images of plants organisms and body parts. We see that in plenty, abstract forms, imaginary forms of plants, imaginary forms of organisms, and imaginary forms of body parts or animals and all those. I'll give you examples. Two, anthropomorphic ecology also means animations in simple terms. We distort a particular image. For example, a duck is there, we have made it into a Donald Duck. We have a rat is there and a cat is there, we have made it a Tom and Jerry. So this is a distortion of image. We have a very we have made distortion of image to understand the relationship between human beings, non-human beings, the living organisms, and physical environment. Keep that in mind, that is how ecology is presented. In biomorphic and anthropomorphic ecologies, you will see speaking animals, monsters, hybrid beings, animation, horror genres. Now, what is the purpose, or what is the purpose of anthropomorphic or biomorphic relationship or ecology here? It blurs the boundaries, humans and non-humans. Why does it blurs? This blurring could be for two reasons. One, it creatively represents the various levels of ecology or various understandings of ecology. It also could be the creator's understanding of complexity of relationship between humans and non-humans. There is a certain level of complexity that is, for example, when you watch a cartoon, it is very easy for you to watch a cartoon, either you smile or emote watching this. But there is certain amount of complexities that is involved in the making and how a cartoon is related to various ecologies. Now, what you see in an anthropomorphic or in a biomorphic ecology is not actually life, but it appears to be life. It is closer. It is organic. Could be said organic if you want to keep it that way. These involves a lot of creativity and lot of transformation that get into the. Here are a few examples. Now, this is an example that everyone would love. Alvin and the Chipmunks. Now, the naughtiness of the chipmunks, the mischief of the chipmunks that you would all as students you would relate. Now, this is a biomorphic, or this is an anthropomorphic representation. And then you have two monsters here. One is Godzilla and the other is King Kong, both ready to fight. You wouldn't see this. This is a larger than life sequence here, image here. Now, this also shows the relationship between humans and non-humans, the monsters or the hybrid that we have made. Remember that this is actually located in social relationship. Now, see the other images there. You have an aeroplane there, you have buildings there, you have fire there. It is actually located in a social milieu background. So this also tells us the complexity of how we relate to non-human beings. I will come to that when I talk more about Avatar. Here is one frame from Lord of the Rings. Here at one sequence of we see plants talking here. Would the plants talk? No, but we have made plants to talk. And we have transformed the understanding of life itself, the organic nature of environment itself. Now, where does this lead to? This earlier I told you, film. We understood film as an event. We also understood film as phenomenologically. We also understood film as an experience. So for many of us, film is an experience. You go watch a movie. There is a beautiful book by Minio who talks about the structures of film experience, phenomenology that involves the experience. Now, most of the time, the experience that involved, the motor experience, the affective experience, the emotive experience, the perspectives that are drawn, comes out of illusion. We should also remember that this biomorphic, anthropomorphic ecology directs us, guides us to understand that film is also an illusion, a creative illusion, where we have movement of objects. The images that we see, the images that we communicate, respond, sense, where we understand, draw meanings out of it, and where we communicate. This, in technical terms, is interperceptive relationality of things. How perception happens between our perception or our relationship happens perceptively to in understanding a non-animate object. This perception solely happens through optical means, through our eyes. We draw meanings, the significations that we draw happens only through our eyes. Third and finally, anthropomorphic ecology. This most of us we know. Now, a director imagine humans or human-like subjects, and a human-like subject is actually created and thrown into a world of circumstance and possibility like us. Yes, yes. Okay, let me try again. Is there? Thank you for reminding. The third ecology is anthropomorphic ecology. Anthropomorphic ecology deals with humans or human-like objects that are thrown into social relationships or thrown into certain human circumstance, certain possibilities as of. So let us also remind about the concept that the philosopher Agamben talks about. We are all anthropology. We ourselves are anthropological mission. In post-humanism, we also talk about how a human being cannot be detached without certain gadgets. You remove cell phones from most of us, we become restless. So, in other words, we are closely attached to certain gadgets, certain missions. The whole makeup of our being is closely associated with machine. So, in this perspective, we also create an anthropomorphic ecology in cinema. Here are a few examples. This is another example. You have a Chitti and you have a Ra. Most of us remember about Chitti only when we have exams. The swiftness with which Chitti reads the book and understands this, memorizes it. We have two human-like objects. It does almost everything. It can romance. It can emote. It brings out emotions. It can do almost everything. So you have human-like objects, human-like subjects. They are thrown into certain circumstances. They are thrown into certain possibilities. These you see in almost most of the movies nowadays. Here is another example. Those who are 90s kids or 70s kids, whatever you call it. Terminator is another huge example of how we talk about anthropomorphic ecology. Now remember that these science fictions create a lot of such ecologies, and we are called to understand this from the point of view of interaction between living organisms, physical environment, and social relationships. Right. I have talked about geomorphic ecology. I've talked about biomorphic and animomorphic ecology, and I've also talked about anthropomorphic ecology. Now, this is the framework that I want to I wanted to present, and here is I have presented the framework. Now, I will talk few things about. Let us take a movie and let's see how this framework fits in a movie. For my convenience, I have taken Avatar. Thinking that most of would have seen clips of Avatar, at least watched the movie. Now, here is an example that tells us that how far we can creatively present ecologies. It is a very, let me also point out that this is a very important movie from the ecological perspective. From the geomorphic ecological perspective, it is a very, very important movie. There are a lot of essays that has been written about environmental ethics and Avatar eco-film, Avatar as an eco-film, Avatar as an eco-cinema, the environmental relationships that you see in Avatar, the different ecologies that you see in Avatar. So I've taken for my convenience, I've taken Avatar and hope you would follow. This is a film that shows us that film world or the ecologies that we talk about, or the green screen or the eco films or the eco media or the eco cinema that we talked about, not only belongs to humans and planet Earth. Now, the scope of our study, the interaction between ecology and film, here lies the scope. Else, earlier we were talking about eco-criticism in a very conventional manner. Environment that is presented in a text, the different models of environment. Now we have to break that shackles and we have to move forward and take ourselves to the next step to understand that the understanding of ecology in creative models, the understanding of ecology is the understanding of environment does not only belongs to humans and planet Earth. Our imagination has taken ourselves to the next level where we actually understand planet Earth. In fact, this movie makes us understand in a better manner our relationship, our ecological relationship between human beings and our planet Earth. Right. This is the setup. This is the geomorphic ecology of Avatar. This is the landscape, or this is the naturescape that we see. How beautiful! There are trees. You also see trees in planet Earth. We are supposed to guard the trees, preserve the trees. We are supposed to preserve natural resources. But here is a landscape. Here is a naturescape. Here is a geomorphic ecology that is almost similar to human planet or the Earth, planet Earth. Now, what is that James Cameron creates? James Cameron creates a fictional planet named Pandora, and we are talking about a time frame in the year 2154. This is a fantasy. This is an imagination. This is a fictional planet, which has almost everything that you see in our planet Earth. But he is taking this to the next level. He is taking the representation of ecology, the interaction of ecology to a next level in his fictional movie. Navi, the original inhabitants, you see, the Navi is the original. I will show their, their pictures. They are the original. In human terms, we call them as aliens. It is easy for us to call them aliens. Now, anything that we don't understand, we have a tweaky way of putting it. So now the alien inhabitants or the original inhabitants of Pandora for us is aliens. Now here in this geomorphic location, you have the space-place relationship, territorial relationship. We also see home-foreign relationship there. You see human beings trying to enter into Pandora, and they are going to accomplish certain mission in Pandora. Now the home actually belongs to Na'vi. Let me also remind you about Caliban, the Tempest, Shakespeare's The Tempest. Prospero and group are actually interpolating themselves. They are invading Caliban's land, Sycorax's land, trying to find solace and comfort and repose there, to shelter there in Caliban's place. It is a similar kind of a situation where you see home, the original inhabitants, Na'vi, for them, it is home. For us, for human beings who went in search of certain thing, I'll come to that in a minute. We get into Pandora to accomplish a certain mission. For us, it is a foreign land. Now we have different set of meanings and set of understandings, set of relationships and set of perceptions when you understand home and foreign. Two, the very important thing about Avatar is how he creates this Na'vis. The Na'vis has a neural system that is directly connected to the environment. The neural system connects the Na'vis with all the animals in Pandora, all the animals in the plants and plants in that particular space. They are connected emotionally. They are connected. They are always connected together in emotion and thoughts. such a very collective presentation of novice. Remember, this presentation is an anthropomorphic presentation. Human-like subjects or human-like objects, if you want to put it either way, or human. Let me say that human-like subjects, but they are quite different. They are put in a certain circumstance. They are put in a certain geomorphic ecology, where they have a collective feeling. They have a collective emotion. They also have a collective thought process. Now, this is an anthropomorphic understanding of the anthropomorphic ecology that you see. Now, there are three ways of looking at the relationship, human ecological relationship in movies. In Avatar, the first relationship that you see in Avatar is human-environment relationship, geomorphic ecology. Now, what James Cameron does is to take the common human-environment relationship of you and me and fix it in Avatar. Now, this is what happens. This is a creative work. This is a fiction. This is an imaginary. But the cue, the creative idea behind the movie is almost similar to what we see. The idea behind the movie is exploitation of environment, exploitation of geomorphic ecology, exploitation of geomorphic environments. Now, this is what happens. Parker, one of the characters, explains why they are there in Pandora. This is why we are here, unobtainium, because this little gray rock sells for 20 million a kilo. That is the only reason that we are here. It's what pays for the whole party, for all the scientists and all those researchers and whatever. It's what pays for our science. Now, this is the reason why the human beings are traveling from the Earth, planet Earth, and is going to Pandora. And we always say the human putti. The human putti goes with the human. Wherever they go, our putti comes with us. Whether it is a fictional world or whether it is an alien world, whether it is another geomorphic ecology, our buddhi comes with us. So our buddhi is to exploit environment from an utilitarian perspective. Let us build a house. If you want to build a house, cut the trees. Now the priority changes there. All this while I am an environmental activist. I would plant trees. I would work for environmental consciousness. When you want to build, let's cut the best teakwood, rosewood, whatever is possible to make the best furniture for us. Because human beings are utilitarian by nature. Whenever we find free mixie, free jar, free watch, whatever free, everything is utilitarian. So this utilitarian aspect comes into our understanding, our relationship with the environment is basically utilitarian. So the exploitation of environment is what these characters carry to Pandora. This is how we actually relate to the geomorphic ecology that we see around, the environment that we see around, the trees that we see around, the rocks that we see around. We all look at it from the utilitarian perspective. When a director takes this understanding, this relation to the next level, he takes the original understanding or original perception of our relationship between humans and environment into Pandora. Two, he also talks about reforestation, because unobtainium, the rock, the gray rock, has to be found at the bottom of a tree, in the roots. It is hidden in the roots of a particular tree, which actually connects the entire population of Navis in Pandora. So in order to search for this unobtainium, you have to deforest. We have to enter into the process of deforestation. You go and fire it. From nowhere you have forest fire. See, this is what happens in Pandora. Deforestation. You fire it up. You destroy the entire trees there. So this is the geomorphic relationship. This is an interaction between ecology. This is the interaction that he perceives. Now, human-alien relationship. This relationship is interperceptual. This is how we understand, try to understand alien. Our understanding of anything that we don't understand, I repeat, our understanding of anything that we don't understand is negative. For example, Colonel Quattridge, when he introduces Pandora's wildlife, he says the wildlife, remember that that is the only life there. We have this we have no other word but to use the word wildlife. The life by itself there is our understanding of wildlife. So whatever we consider as wildlife is the normal of Pandora. That is how the Navis live. That is how the plants are there, the birds are there, animals are there, the protagonist and the group of Navis are there. So when we don't understand certain things, we tend to portray in a negative way. So this Pandora, the very understanding of Pandora is wildlife. It is worse than hell. He says, I would rather go to hell than to Pandora. The only thing that we see there is the innate relationship between the Navis and the life around them, ecology around them. So that which cannot be controlled by us, by human beings, is always dangerous to human beings. It is always strange. It is always alien. So our understanding of anything that is in the perceptual, anything that is beyond our understanding is always considered to be stranger and dangerous and wild and whatnot. This is an interperceptual relationship. This is how we understand things that are beyond ourselves, things that are relatively animate and organic, but not necessarily human. 3, the last one, the alien and environment relationship. This is again a geomorphic relationship. Now, this is a relationship that everyone would like to have with nature in a philosophical manner. Everyone would say that our relationship with nature is a spiritual relationship. But remember that the Navis relationship with nature is truly spiritual, because their neural system is directly connected with everything that surrounds us. So that is really spiritual. If you are crying, the entire ecology or entire environment will cry with you, or come and participate with that emotion. Remember that the environment that we are surrounded also truly is spiritual in this sense. When we cry, when human beings emote, when we have disturbance, we would actually can feel that in the air. That is the geomorphic ecology that we really have as human beings. That is really a blessing, but we don't really understand that. Now, this alien environment relationship depends on nature, especially the sacred tree, which they call tree soul. It is underneath the tree's soul we have this unobtainium. So there we actually talk about the root. Now, where do we come from? Where do human beings come from? When we go back to anthropology, those science lessons that Neanderthal man, that man, this man, I am coming from ape. We are products of this ecology. Our root belongs to environment. Our root belongs to planet Earth. That is actually the relationship that we have to look forward. That is what is the relationship or the roots that we always need to be aware of. 2, the relationship between alien and environment happens in a collective manner. Remember, always we call it a social life. Maybe their kind of collectivity is the environmental relationship. Our environmental relationship is much curtailed because of our social lives. But their life, their aliens, the Navis, are innately related to the environment, which is a spiritual relationship. Now, I have talked to you about, let me conclude here. I have talked to you about ecologies, how ecologies are represented in films. I have taken a particular perspective, that is process relational perspective of representation of ecologies in films. I've talked to you about material ecologies, social ecologies, and perceptual ecologies, which is for the sake of film framework, have developed into geomorphic ecology, biomorphic ecology, animomorphic ecology, and then we also talk about anthropomorphic ecology, and how they are represented in movies, how these ecologies are represented in movies. And then we also talked a little bit about Avatar. I wish I had more time to talk in detail about Avatar, but then a small presentation on how the representation of ecologies that we see in a fictional film, how we have geomorphic, perceptual, anthropomorphic, even some certain kind of an biomorphic understanding of ecologies. Ecologies of film. Let me conclude here. Remember that the interaction between ecologies and film is a process relational ontology. This is where I began with. Human beings by themselves are a process. Filmmaking by itself is a process. And then the environment as a process. Human being, non-human being, animals, spaces, everything can be understood in terms of process. The existence of all beings and non-beings are relational in nature. This is the platform on which I try to present this framework. Remember that watching a film involves a viewer, a cinema. There is also a process of viewing the cinema, experiencing the cinema, making meaning out of what happens in the film world. So when we watch movies, let us also remind ourselves that these are the various representations and these are the various interactions that we have between ecologies and the process or the film world that we see. Thank you. I stop there. If there are any questions or classifications, we can take a couple of questions if we have time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your crystal clear ideas on green screen representation and how it connected with films, all those. And now this is a session of discussion. And dear students, you can raise any questions if you have regarding the presentation of our class.
Sir, what do you think a commoner can do to help the environment?
This is a very environmental question. Now, the first and foremost thing that we can do is to have certain awareness about what actually happens around us. For example, the garbage that we have at home has to be put in a particular space or particular place. Now, our environmental awareness begins there. A commoner's understanding of environment has to happen there. Now, when we go out, eat a banana, where are we putting the peel in? Are we trying if there is no trash box there? Are we just throwing it out, or are we carrying it to a place where we can put a trash box? So that is where the commoner's understanding of environmental awareness has to begin. So that is why I said earlier, talking about all these theories, talking about all these academics, the fundamental understanding of environment has to begin that I am part of this environment. I am the subject of this environment. If there is a flood, the first person that is going to be affected is me. So I am part of this environment, and our awareness of what I should do from where I am to the environment has to begin from our understanding of where I am placed.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Is film industry is using environmentalism as just a mere fashionable trend, or their desire to educate any awareness on that, sir?
Can you repeat that first word that you begin with? You meant aesthetics. What is that word that you use?
Is that film industry using environmentalism as mere fashionable meter, or they have a real trend to desire to educate that awareness?
Now, this is a very tricky question. You want me to take political sides here, because let's not be judgmental. I will give you 50-50. Even when a commercial movie like Avatar is made, we academics actually try to learn something out of it. That is what I try to understand, because that is one of the highest grossing films of all time. Now, that is a very commercial product. So even when certain amount of commercial or fashionable trend, as you said, goes into it, let me speak from an academics point of view or a student of film studies point of view. Our view to understand, our perspective towards film has to dissect it. Like a +2 biology student who would dissect a cockroach. That should be our understanding. Now, as a student of film studies, as we dissect a commercial movie, if you feel that this movie is only a trend, you just tell that, write a review, write a blog, post a Facebook, write a status in the Facebook, telling that this is a movie that is only that gives only a fashionable trend. This is just commercial. It is a good for nothing movie. Or if you have something to learn about it, then as an academic, as a student of film studies, take cues out of the movies and learn. I know most of us are aware of how movies are made. That is one thing that I said early in my presentation. There is a science behind filmmaking. You all know the pains that is put behind the making of a movie. So most of the times, let me tell you, when I have talked with a few people who work in the industry, 99.99%, when a movie is made, they all make for good intentions plus commercial value. So if a movie that brings out some ecological value is made with good intention, but presents much more commercial value, you as a student of film studies should be able to point out. So let me not be the judge, or let me not take any political side. What my point here is, as a student of film studies, you have the liberty to write a strong review of the movie and tell that this is only a commercial movie. It has no environmental consciousness fixed in it. Or tell us that these are the lessons that we learned out of this movie. So this answer is also politically right, I think.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Yes.
Do you think we need a change in environmental framework? I mean, urbanization to rural.
Yes, I think that we need, your question is very, very valid, very, very valid, and you yourself would know the weight of that question. Now, the only thing that I would suggest, knowing the complexities that is involved in the question, is that people believe that urbanization is very important. Certain people believe that taking into concern the eco-critical point of view or ecological point of view, we should stop urbanizing. Now, my point would be, when you urbanize, we should be aware of we should be aware of what is happening to the environment. For example, when you can urbanize a place where there are no trees, but we don't tend to do that. We actually cut down trees to urbanize certain areas. So the policy, this is something that the policy makers should think of. There are acres of land where we would only see plains, and you don't go and urbanize that area for economic reasons. You don't go there, but you are trying to urbanize a place where there are trees, where there are already a lot of ecological geomorphic ecology already there. That is my point of concern. So when you urbanize, you just have the environmental consciousness. Maybe if you cut certain amount, it is inevitable for you to cut a few trees. You also make sure that you plant trees. We don't take initiative to plant trees, even when we have enough environment, and there is a possibility for us to plant trees, because we are all, we are all caught up in our daily lives, which is planting trees. Our daily lives are not actually about environmental consciousness. We are not going to think about environment. This environmental consciousness is going over after this lecture. So as human beings, we all have our own duties, our own works to do. But whenever we can, we should have certain amount of environmental consciousness from the ground, where we can do what I can do to help this. If I can plant two trees which can support, or which can support the environment closer to the urbanizing area, that would be fine. So this is something the policy makers should keep in mind. But my answer to that is, even when we urbanize a particular area with certain amount of environmental consciousness. Thank you, Javed.
Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
so why Tamil film studios are not giving interest in doing this kind of film ecology?
Film, there are movies. Lately there are movies. There are, Prabhu Solomon is working on few movies. I would say that the rural movies that you see in Tamil, 1980s Bharati Raja's, Bharati Raja by him made name for himself because of his rural movies. It all depends on, as a student of film studies, how we look at movies and how we look at relationships, in movies, ecological relationships in movies. So even the commercial entertainers is what is making name. But there are a lot of movies in Tamil film industry that give so much of importance to ecology, which we don't watch because we don't have the song sequence there, we don't have the fight sequence there, we don't have the hero's entry, the heroine's entry, we don't go to Alps. So these are the things that we Tamil people are expecting in a movie. So you should also watch a lot of movies that are made in rural areas, which we don't watch. Also, remember that these just now Jawahar was raising a very important question of urbanizing. Any movie can be studied from an ecological point of view. That is the point of my entire lecture. That is why I picked this framework. Because in this framework, this relational ontological framework or process relational framework, we will be able to relate almost everything to ecology, whether it is geomorphic ecology, animomorphic ecology, or anthropomorphic ecology, where we have the relationship between urban, rural, space, place, home, foreign, everything. We will be able to understand and take cues out of our learning and understanding for ecology. So let's not say that Tamil movie industry is not giving importance. It is for us as students and students of film studies to explore the interaction, how nature or ecology is interacted in films, how the interaction between ecologies and films have happened. I would say there are a lot of films that we have missed for certain other reasons. Have talked much about ecology. I don't know how many of you have how many of you have seen Pariyerum Perumal. I don't know how many of you have seen the movies of 80s and 90s where most of the movies are, the locations of movies happen in rural areas. So let's also revisit certain movies back. Let's also think about ecology in terms of urbanization, whatever happens in the cities. Let's also make a critique of that. For example, the movie Vada Chennai or the movie Asuran. In a Vettimaran's movie have a lot of ecological value. But do you think that we are talking about the ecological value in the movies? We are talking elsewhere. Mari Selvaraj's movie, the recent movies. It has ecological value. For example, Asuran have deep ecological value. The journey that he undertakes, it is not through any urban roads. It is through forest and the abandoned lands. Now, how we understand certain movies, the ecological understandings of the movies depends on the students of film studies. So let's, at least from today, let's also look at movies, every aspects of the movie from ecological perspective. Thank you. Yes. 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 Can you repeat the first part of the question? I think I missed a couple of words. Can you please? Egypt codes. Yes. We can certainly consider as an anthropomorphic ecology. You can interpret that way. Yes. Yes, let me check. Danesh Viveka, sir, what is your take on people opposing upcoming airport and NAM port in Kanyakumari district? Are people opposing these because of their awareness on ecology, or is the opposition because of political motives? Kindly clarify, sir. For my convenience and for political sake, I will ignore the first part of the question. Thank you for that question, because this is not something that is only happening with Kanyakumari district. Remember that wherever there are projects like this, I remember in Andhra Pradesh, I think years back there was a huge protest for a nuclear plant. There are, for me, if you politically look at it, you can draw political motives out of it. If there are, real environmental conscious intentions behind it, then it is well and good. Now, this is something that I talked about in Avada. The political motives are often shut out by telling the utilitarian motive. Now, remember that if the port is not coming in a particular place, it will be actually constituted in another place. If a particular nuclear plant is not constituted or instituted in a particular place, remember that it will be instituted in a different place. So human beings understanding of these projects, whether it is politically motivated or ecologically motivated, either way, remember the basic, the default language that we all speak is utilitarian. Ultimately, how these projects are going to help people. Now, so when you, for example, the nuclear plants, when they are instituted, there are huge cries. But now we have come to terms with it, because there is the politically motivated point of view says it is utilitarian. The ecological, the consciousness is completely subdued. So let me again use the word policymakers. The decisions, the answer for this will be it has to be given by the policymakers. What do you think about the Kolachal port? This has to be an answer from a policy maker, not from a student of film studies. So I think those questions has to be answered by policymakers. I leave them to the policymakers.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for answering all the questions. Even though it is tricky, you answered very in a very good manner. So thank you so much. And dear students, you are requested to fill the feedback forms by using the link given in the WhatsApp group. The best and the beautiful things in the world cannot be touched. They can be felt by heart and cherished by memory. Thank you. Is one such prayer among them. Now I invite Mrs. P. Anisha, Assistant Professor from the Department of English, to propose the vote of thanks.
A warm and grateful morning to everyone. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who work really hard to make this event a successful one. First of all, I extend my most sincere thanks to the Almighty God for making today's event a resounding success. With His blessings and grace, we are able to make this event what it was. Next, I take this opportunity to thank our Secretary, Reverend Father Ekemens Michael, the mastermind of the institution. We feel proud and thank you for your constant support. Thank you, Father. Next, I would like to thank our principal, Dr. Meenakshi Sundararajan, who has been helping and supporting us from the beginning. Thank you, sir. Next, on behalf of our English department, I extend my heartfelt thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Preya Elmo Raj, Assistant Professor, Pachaiyappa College, Chennai, who spared time from his busiest schedule to grace the occasion. Today, we had an opportunity to hear your valuable thoughts on GREENSCREEN, and we feel enriched with the thorough knowledge on representation of ecology and films. And this will surely be going to encourage us in our future events too. Thank you so much, sir. An event like this cannot be happen overnight. The wheels started rolling wheels ago. It requires planning and smart work. I thank our beloved HOD, Dr. S. Shushma Jennifer, and the webinar organizer, Mrs. Anupama Jose, and all the organizing committee members for making this webinar a successful one. Thank you, dears. Next, I also extend my sincere thanks to all the participants from various colleges who made this event a successful one. Thank you, everyone. Last but not the least, a big thanks to our budding rock stars that made this event an extraordinary with their impressive participation. Thank you so much, dear students. And on behalf of our English department, once again, our sincere thanks to one and all participated here. Thank you all.
Thank you so much to each and everyone for your support for the success of this webinar. Thank you. You can wind up.